Welcome to the Starboard podcast, where we're talking everything in the world of windsurfing. Through this series, we're going to meet the dream team riders for Starboard and talk about everything from boards, pro series, competitions and events, coaching tips and technique, and basically everything cool that's happening on the water right now, all around the world. Right, everyone, welcome to the Starboard podcast. Whether you're streaming through an audio device, you're listening to us as a podcast, or you're live on YouTube with us right now. Those of you guys that are new to the channel, welcome. I'm Cookie here, your host from the Ridealong channel on YouTube, and maybe you've seen some other little stories and reels popping out. And through the series, I've been meeting some really cool riders, some people from Starboard and different walks of life and background in the windsurfing industry. Today, I'm super stoked because we've got PWA professional windsurf rider Federico Morisio joining us today from Sardinia. Can you hear me all right, Federico?
What's up, Cookie? Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. I've seen this podcast. I've seen some of the other Starboard riders on it, and I was actually curious and eager to be here. So there we go.
No, it's cool to have you. We've gone completely international right now. So you can see in the background from me, I'm in a very flat, calm, slightly overcast Vasiliki. Where exactly are you right now, Freddie?
Yeah, you got a little nicer background than mine right now, but I'm too in a nice place. I'm actually in Portopolo, northern Sardinia. I haven't been here for like 3-4 years. It's so I compete in the wave discipline. So you might say, what are you actually doing there? But Sardinia actually has some pretty sick wave conditions. And as May, usually it's a month that it's a little like, I would call it in between month, in between like seasons and places. So I've just come back from Chile and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to Italy. I'm going to head over to Sardinia and see if I'm lucky and I score some good windsurfing, wave riding conditions, here in the north, in the west. There's some pretty epic spots. So yeah, I'm just here hoping for conditions and meanwhile just enjoying this place, which is really, really stunning. Like in terms of environment and nature, it's impressive.
I've read such cool things about Sardinia. It's on the bucket list, as well as Chile you mentioned just then before. We're going to come back to Chile soon. I want to know all about that. Before we do, though, you mentioned just then you're a PWA wave rider. Tell us more about that. Tell us who are you for the guys that don't know your name or what a PWA wave rider is.
So yeah, I have a little weird / crazy story, let's say. So I was born and raised in Turin, northwest part of Italy, near Milan. Obviously, we don't have the sea or the ocean over there. I was actually closer to the mountains. I used to ski and I used to do all kind of sports since I was really young. My dream was actually to become a professional athlete. I loved all kind of sports. I did all kind of sports. I was lucky enough that my dad was a windsurfer too, and he taught me like at 8 years old in Corsica. So, pretty close by. And
when you were 8, that's cool.
Yeah. When I was 8, both my parents loved traveling, and as a family, like every summer holiday was dedicated to a windsurfing trip, right? Because my dad was just like so passionate and in love with it, and again, my family just loved traveling. So usually, you can put together traveling and windsurfing, and for sure. And so every summer holiday, it was just like a few weeks were dedicated to windsurfing, and I would windsurf as much as I could. And I was actually good at it. I loved it. I was improving fast, but again, like with 20-25 sessions a year, you can't really do like magic, So then I would come back to Italy, and I would just dream about it. Meanwhile, practice other sports. I did competitive tennis, volleyball, soccer, rugby, a bit of again everything. And then throughout the years, I started windsurfing always a little more. When I got my driving license, and then I spent a few months in Fuerteventura, like in 2012, 2013, and the dream was inside. Again, I was pretty crazy, but I just had it inside in a way. But everything happened when I finished high school, and as a huge gift that I'm really grateful for. I was a good student. That's gonna be my justification. But my parents gifted me this trip to Maui, to Hawaii. That they actually. Yeah, they actually saw it like as the last fun, good trip before the real life. You know what I mean? It was like I just
Okay.
started
Yeah.
in Turin, which is a super hard university. And they were like, okay, just go enjoy that, say bye to all of that, or kind of, and then come back and study and do what you have to do. And
But did
then,
your dad go with you? Was this actually a holiday for your father that was taking you with him? Or
no,
this
I
was
went,
just for
oh,
you?
I went by
Oh,
myself.
great. Yeah, cool.
That's why it was huge, because I mean, at 19, going on the other side of the world, I could speak English, yeah, but like still, like, like new culture, new place, new everything. I pretty much didn't know anybody. I was with Goya in those years, but again, I didn't know anybody. And man, I just arrived there, and I don't know, that trip changed my life. Like that fire that I felt inside just like exploded, because imagine, like, I got to the Mecca of windsurfing, a new culture. I felt a lot of positivity. Conditions were like dreamy and challenging. And then, I was at Okipa every day with the best riders in the world, training with them, challenging, myself. And then I participated in the Aloha Classic. I did the youth and went all the way to the semifinals. Like, I met people that straight away, like, gave me a lot of confidence, saying me like, hey, I mean, this guy, Ferdinando Alfredo, is still my trainer today, but he was the first guy to tell me, hey, you're good. Like, you're good. And I was like, wow, a guy in Maui that lives here, that trained Morgan Moreau, Camille Juban, and Kane Pritchard, that actually tells me that. I was like, cool. So whatever. So that was in 2014. And from that trip, I just said, you know what? I want to become a professional windsurfer. This is my dream, and I have to go for it. This is my last opportunity. I know I can do it. I just got to give it all, and I just got to have an opportunity.
So this was when you were 19, 2014, and you had I'm going to do this. This is it. Can I just go back a second? When you were, I've got a reason for this, but when you were 8 and you first started windsurfing, you were pushed into it, or coached into it, let's say, from your parents. Did you love it straight away when you were 8, 9 years old?
Yeah, I loved it. I was hyperactive, you say? Like, I was like, I would get angry really quickly. I still remember one of the few memories that I have is that I would start. I wasn't able to jibe or tack yet, and I would fall and would start screaming, and I would be like, super angry.
That's what I remember from learning that bit.
But my dad was just on the beach like this, just waiting, just like chilling. He's going to stop and he's going to come back somehow. So like I would scream and shout, like, and then, but yeah, no, I the challenge that windsurfing gives you, and the whole thing, I don't know. I always loved it.
Do you know, the reason I asked this, and I asked this to everyone when I'm chatting to them about starting windsurf and getting into it, was that my first experience, I hated it. I was a little bit older than when you learned, and we're going back, you're 28, 29 now. So we're going back 20 years, the sails weren't as light. The kit wasn't as forgiving. It was tough. And I remember just getting beaten up on the south coast of the UK at this outdoor center and having a horrible time. And then I came back to it 5 years later, tried again, and there was some slightly different kit. The weather was a little bit different. The water is a bit calmer. And then I started to go, actually, this is cool. And it sparked. But that reaction you had just then, that's why I jumped in it. It was like, yes, it's so frustrating. And the highs and the lows from it's amazing to it's the worst thing I've ever done, they're like split-second changes, especially for beginners,
We all know that it's tough, but I feel like I was also lucky because I was learning in a perfect place. It was the Bay of Figari, like here, just in Bonifacio. So I can pretty much see it from here. And it was flat water, like, light winds. I feel like, obviously, you have to learn in a right place. Like, if you learn in a place that it's good for learning, obviously, it's going to help. But also traveling now, I just noticed how like, if you can, like, motivate or push kids into windsurfing at a young age, at that young age, you have that. Pretty much everyone loves challenges, I feel like, or like you don't want to give up, so at that age, that's the age for windsurfing, because I mean, it is so challenging, it is so tough at times that you need to be a little naive, or like you just need to be a bit like, I don't care. You know, you don't need to have too many thoughts in your mind. And actually, I've seen that in Chile, where there's a nice new generation of young windsurfers coming up, and some of the dads just send them into the waves pretty much, and they're like getting pounded and everything, but they just keep going. And I'm like, wow, that's the age, that's the mindset, that's how you learn. But yeah.
Being able to see some of the world's best and some incredible riders whilst learning at the same place, the same time, like I think that's really inspiring as well. And having such easy access now to social media, to the clips that you're putting out regularly is inspiring, I think, for everyone to go like, okay, like I'm just getting in the foot straps. I'm just about doing my first bottom turn, top turns, but look where they're going. Maybe I should start these trips. Maybe I should start getting into the adventures, which actually you just touched on there. It's a seamless link. Tell us about Chile. That looked amazing. The last few months you spent out there.
So yeah, I love Chile. And, but let me first connect what you just said, because, when I receive comments or, someone texts me something and says, hey, because of your videos, I started windsurfing again. I used to windsurf. I started windsurfing again. Or like, I'm windsurfing, but, you're motivating me to keep pushing because I want to ride in those conditions one day. Man, that's so fulfilling, because I know what it feels to, ride those conditions or those feelings, when wave riding or when doing certain moves. And if I imagine that person feeling that, I'm just so stoked for them, And so, and again, windsurfing is challenging. So when they are like, hey, I used to windsurf, I stopped, but now I want to get back at it, I'm like, yes, like, yes, like go for it. It just, it's just so good. It's just, so yeah. And, but talking about Chile, it's a lot of people, asking me about Chile, and obviously I've spent a lot of time there in the last years. Now it's been like 4 or 5 months a year for the last 3 years in a row. I first arrived there in 2017, thanks to the first International Windsurfing Tour event over there. Okay, that was, I don't know, I feel like 10 years after, or even more, 10 years after the last competition that he had there. Because back in the days, like Cowley, Francisco, all these guys went there. There was a Topocalma Infernal, and it was a pretty hardcore competition. But then it kind of like disappeared, went a bit off the map. And so in 2017, they went back with kind of like a more local organization. And the fun thing is that just on that, so I started in 2015, I started my journey, competing. And I was like, if I do this, I gotta go for it 100%. I can't just do like one trip and get better and maybe one competition. That's gonna take me like 40 years, So if I want to go for it, I'm gonna go for it 100%, 110%. And I was like, I gotta go in the best places, in the best time, train with the best, and competing with the best. That was the plan. Just as easy and simple in a way, and naive again, but that was the thing, And so I started traveling, and that was 2015, 2016. But you know what? In those years, there were like 2, 3, 4 sometimes wave events in the PWA. The level was insane as always. And just sometimes there were trials, which was, the qualification, the opportunity to qualify for the main event. And sometimes the trials were like one heat. And so coming from outside, first of all, having to improve my level, of course, but also having to understand how to compete in windsurfing, because it is completely different, right? Like I used to compete in soccer, tennis, volleyball, rugby, but it's different. It's just completely different. And so having to understand that and, gain a bit of experience in 2015 and 2016, I was like, I probably had an hour in heats in 2 years. I was like, I need more, like I need. Yeah. And so the IWT like came, that year became International Windsurfing Tour from the American Windsurfing Tour. And there were all these new events that were also like pretty much focused on wave riding, which I was slowly discovering that was really like something that pushed me even more. I was like really falling in love with wave riding and those conditions. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try to compete in a few more events to gain experience and see how it goes. And so I went to Baja California, Mexico, Punta San Carlos, which was amazing. And already, with that stoke, I had a nice result. And then after that, I went to Peru, Pacasmayo, 2017, August 2017. And I was like, when I got there, I was like, what is this place? What is this wave? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I was just so happy. I was super motivated, super focused, really, really like narrow, with my focus. I just wanted to compete, do well. But there, I was just so happy riding that wave. I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, it's just amazing. I was just so like in the flow, because I just love the conditions so much. And what happened is actually that against all the odds, I won that event. I won Peru, like with Morgan Moreau, with Kevin Pritchard, and nobody expected it. I didn't expect it, and so the plan was to go back to Europe after that, and then hopefully go to Maui. But then I was like, wow, this is a lot of points, and this is good for the ranking. And I was like, I might just keep going. And so I was like, okay, well, where's the next event? And they're like, oh, it's in Chile. It's just here, close by. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I asked, I know Klaas Volkert used to go there. I mean, went there a lot. And I was like, Klaas, how's Chile? What is it about? Like, he's like, oh, it's cold. Waves are good. And it's really chill, like relaxed, like, I was like, all right, let's go. And so that's how I arrived in Chile, mid-September 2017. I arrived there and sorry, Klaas, but what I found was something a little different. Or like pretty different. I found this incredible local young community of windsurfers that were like full power, like they just loved windsurfing and were having fun. And I don't know, I just met incredible friends straight away. The place, it's stunning. Conditions were good. September is not the best month, but I could see the potential. And so I had a lifetime experience, like for real. And they were like, you got to come back in March. March is the month. I used to go to Maui usually in March, April, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for like, let's see, I believe in them. And I went back in March, and man, I think March 2018, one of the best trips of my life. I think out of a month I had like 25 days, double session, Tubo Calma, Matanzas, Tubo Calma, Matanzas, Tubo Calma, Matanzas. I was like, are you kidding me? And so like, just to give you a little more context. So again, the spot in Chile is called, it's Matanzas is the main spot where the World Cup PWI-IWT event this year was, just in April.
Yeah.
And that's the main village, like city, let's say, not really a city, I would call it more of a village. And you have this main spot of Matanzas, which is it turns throughout the day. It starts side off in the morning, then it goes usually side on in the afternoon, and it goes side off again in the evening. So it changes quite a bit. It's a nice wave with some interesting sections. I kind of call it like a hokipa, like a port tack hokipa, but on sand, not on reef. So that's also a big difference because swells move the sand around. So the wave is not really the same every year. It usually gets the same because from September you have those southwest swells coming in and moving the sand and positioning it, And so then the wave usually becomes similar every year, but it is different, and it is different every year, and you have to adapt to it. And then maybe there's a big north swell that arrives and moves it around all over again. So that's Matanzas. Then a few hundred meters down when you have Roca Quadrada, which is another incredible side on, side off wave. Then you have a jumping spot in Las Brisas. Then you have another jumping spot in Pupuya. And this is all like in between 5-10 minutes driving. And then you have 45 minutes away, you have this, probably my favorite spot, this dreamy spot.
Your eyes light up. You can't, if you're listening to this, you couldn't see your eyes just sparked. You put your hand in your chest, just remembering it. I could see that feeling. Keep going. Sorry, tell me about it.
I mean, you just go to Tobocama, driving through like wild nature, like off-road, and you just get to this place in the middle of nowhere, raw, and you see this wave side off, physical, because it's really gusty. So it can be tricky, but once you're on that wave, clean, powerful, Point Break, and then some sections. Oh my God. So that's the dream. And then you can also score Pichilemu, which is an hour and a half north. That's a city. They call it the capital, the surfing capital, because they have insane ways for surfing. But there's also one spot for windsurfing that in certain conditions just goes off. Like off. It's like 1-2 minutes ride, glassy, side off, can be big. So, and I fell in love with Chile because the place was awesome. The community was insane. I had all these vibes and the conditions were world class. I could just train there. And if you look at it, like if you pay attention, like Brozinho, Robbie Swift, Victor Fernandez, Klaas Valgert have been going there for a lot of years. And I was like, yeah. I understand why they come here, but I was probably like, I had a lot of hype and I was like, so is it just me or is it really like a nice place? Okay. I was like starting to be like, maybe it's me. I just fell in love. Maybe I'm too emotional about it, And so basically what happened is that this year I started organizing what I call the Windsurf Adventures. All right. Because I was like, how can I actually provide something to my audience that it's really valuable, that it's really like unique? And I was like, you know what? Throughout all these years, a lot of people was texting me like, hey, you're so lucky. These trips are so amazing. Wow, I would love to go there. Oh my God, it looks incredible. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring you there. And so I put together these trips. I started obviously with Chile because it's the place where I spend the most time. I have a big local knowledge now. I know all the spots. I can arrange, accommodation, car rental, whatever. And so I put this whole thing together with coaching. And the whole idea was to provide a unique lifetime experience in one of the best wave spots in the world and hanging out together, right? Helping you improve your wave riding. So the first one happened in January, and this Greg, this great guy from Poland, came. By the way, huge respect because, it was my first time and I think he didn't know what to expect 100%. He didn't know where he was going because, again, you don't have so much info about Chile. And he arrived and, whatever, long story short, he just loved it. And then in April, I had 2 Italians, again, Ruben and Mattia, that came and they loved it too. So I was like, you know what? It's not just me.
No,
there is
something here. Yeah. And it's so cool being so like small groups, just 2-3 of you guys hanging out together for how long are the trips? Is it a couple of days or is it a week or what?
So obviously, I mean, for people coming from all over the world, or like, again, Greg was coming from Poland. The guys were coming from Italy. So Greg came for 10 days. The idea was 10 days because, I'm also experimenting. I have to understand how many days people can take off from work or like they can, permit themselves to travel around. 10 days
physically windsurf for. You can windsurf 10 days straight. A lot of these guys can't, coming out like one day and I'm in pieces after wave sailing. So
exactly. So I was like, okay, I think 10 days could work. Greg arrived. We scored 6-7 days out of 10, 6-7 days of wind out of 10.
Yeah.
And the Italians were just like, you know what? It's a long trip. Can we make it a little longer? And, I'm flexible because, again, I want to provide a unique and a lifetime experience, So I was like, you know what? You guys want to come 14 days? Let's do that. And then the flights were just only 12 days. And so I was like, let's do that. And the fun thing was that I made them arrive just the day before the end of the World Tour, of the World Cup, in Matanzas. So they basically arrived. And the first day they arrived, there was the closing ceremony of the PWA IWT Matanzas World Cup. So imagine like they arrived in this new place. They just discovered the whole thing way higher, way better than their expectations. And then they were hanging out with all like the pros, the local guys, the event organizers, and the closing ceremony. So obviously everybody like enjoying, going crazy. And then the day after, windsurfing in perfect ways. That's it's cool to share this. It's really cool. It's really cool to share this.
I mean, it sounds perfect. And anyone listening, if you haven't seen, it's all over your social media. Look on your Instagram and your Facebook and everything. And there's just so many great pictures because that's part of what you did, wasn't it? You got some local photographers to come and join you and take those memories home with them. Like Yeah, I had a
Yes.
little scroll through and was like, this just looks like like you say, the trip of a lifetime. Looks insane. So cool.
And after hearing all these messages, sorry, from people throughout the years, I was like, you know what, I can provide this. And the cool thing, man, is that I want it to be like personalized. First of all, because I want to focus on your needs and your wants to improve, and also I want to build like a close relationship. And so that's actually what happened in both the trips. And it's fun because at the end of the day, I'm sharing the stoke for windsurfing. I'm sharing the love that I have for this place. I'm helping them improve, and we're hanging out, having fun, knowing each other. A lot of the times, obviously, we're like-minded people. We share similar passions and interests, and so at the end, you also create friendships, and it's like a win-win-win. It's just
Yeah. I mean, there's so many amazing spots all around the world, and you said it quite rightly just then, that it's accessible to everyone. You just need that local knowledge to piece it together and work out, right, I've landed here. How do I get there? How do I move my kit? Where do I stay? Well, there's no wind here, but you spotted it just then, like 10 minutes drive to the north, to the south, wherever, and it might not be working here, but it can be working there. Vasiliki is exactly the same. Sometimes it doesn't blow here, but it's a 40-minute drive to the north of the island, and there's a whole nother spot, and it's amazing. It's completely different conditions, but when it's not on here, pack up the car, get north, and there's something else going up there. It's cool.
There you go. And like it's hard for people, coming for the first time, or just like not knowing exactly how it works, maybe the local language, to understand all these things in a week and 10 days. And you want to maximize their fun, their sailing opportunities, their improvement in those days. And there's people that understand the value of this. And so again, if you put it all together, I was astonished by, like, for example, Greg's improvement in 6 days, 6-7 days. A guy that I ride from basically side on shore conditions, usually sailing in El Médano in Tenerife. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he had no clue about side offshore riding, but the way he adapted and understood it, and and just like went in the water, the attitude, the way he was understanding my tips, I was just like, we were both super stoked at the end, and he's already looking forward to the next trips, because I'm organizing now Fuerteventura end of July, and then I'm organizing Peru, Pacasmayo, because that's also a way that I want to show people. So again, really, really, really cool. And this is fun. I'm going to share it just because he was looking at my board the whole trip, because he would see in those gusty conditions, like light wind, like gusty, that I was with my Hyper 88 at times. And I was like floating pretty much with no problem, because the board is pretty fat in the middle, designed for that, those lightweight conditions.
Old, wasn't it? Yeah.
And he was like looking at it. And I was like, oh, good, bro. And he's like, yeah. And then when he left, he actually asked me info, and he was considering, like getting like the 100 3 liters, because he's a big guy. And it was like, the cool thing about this board is that even if it's a lot of liters, it still turns amazing, and that's not something that common. And so it was just fun, just at the end, how you can bring value and help each other in many ways.
Yeah. You know what, for you and I both as coaches, the most rewarding thing is seeing that light bulb, seeing something spark, seeing your tips come together, and the students are then actually like buzzing off what you've done, and you're like, I made that happen. Like, that guy is on the biggest high of his life right now because of what you or I did, and what we did to provide that for them. It's the most rewarding thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And man, like, let's be honest, windsurfing is one of the toughest sports in the world, and we are all so used to learn by ourselves. And it's crazy, like, you wouldn't go play tennis alone if you wouldn't know how to play, or if you would have like a beginner intermediate like level, or if you would want to improve, you would get like a coach, right? And in windsurfing, we are so used to, and I used to do that too. And then I was like, I need a coach. Like, I just can't, like, be at Okipa, mast high, current, 3 swells. I don't know what I have to do here. I have no idea. I need
Yeah.
someone to help me out. And so when I realized that, then I also realized that someone else could need that help too, you know? So yeah, I think there's a lot
Something
of
I say with a lot of coaches, I use this sentence a lot with coaches, is that practice makes permanent, not perfect. And that's where the coach steps in. You know, you could practice the same thing 1,000 times. It hasn't necessarily made it better. It's just made a permanent move. And until the coach steps in and says, okay, like you've done it twice, now let's change something. Now let's change something else. Then we can start to make the improvements. That's when
Absolutely.
practice becomes perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I agree so much. And it's also because, I mean, of course, practice is at the base of everything. You need action. You need action, you know, both in windsurfing and life. You need action to make things happen. But let's be honest, like, again, sometimes you could do the same thing with the same mistake 1,000 times and you're not going to get better at it. Like, and or sometimes there's more behind it, especially in these sport and in this sport, especially with all these variables, you know. And to me, like, for example, when we were talking about this, when we were talking about practice, the mental side, to me, it's really important, you know, because, like, for example, in the last year and a half, 2 years, I got to a point I was like, you know what, yes, I still want to windsurf every day. I need a lot of practice, but you know what, I feel like I got to go a little more on quality than quantity.
Yeah.
Like this thing that hasn't been working, or these conditions that I still don't understand, it's about changing something. It's about having a different attitude when going in the water in that condition. It's about changing a few things, maybe moving the mast foot. Like it's about quality sometimes, you know, and that's easier to get if you have someone that can see also from the outside or through videos, video analysis, and all of that. So I was like, you know what? Instead of like just getting in the water and go for like 3 hours, full power, giving it all. Yes, amazing, good. I needed that. I will still need it. But it's also about fine tuning a few things here and there. Maybe instead of like 3 hours full power, do an hour, focus, trying a few different things, and stepping up. Good. You know, like it's. I think there's a lot of also mentality, training and game behind it in windsurfing to get better.
Yeah, big time. And you're quite right. Less practice that's quality practice is probably better than loads of practice that's just quantity. And yes, I've got the stoke and I'm having a great time, but am I improving? Maybe not.
And sometimes that's
something there. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Sometimes that's even harder, right? It's even harder to do less, but in a different way than doing the same.
Yeah.
Right? But what were you? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, you said earlier about you found the right wave and you were just relaxed and you enjoyed it, and then you went and you won that competition. And I think you touched upon that mentality just then, and that's that thing. It's the most frustrating thing to hear as a student, and I can't say it as the coach, but once your students relax and you start to have fun and enjoy it, then you can improve. But an old ski coach of mine used to tell me to relax all the time. And all I wanted to do was punch the guy in the face. Like, this isn't helping. Like, I need to know how I can relax. And I need to find a way that I can soften up and enjoy it. But us as the coaches, we can't just tell the students to relax, even if that is what is going to make the difference for them. It's hard from both sides, you know?
It is hard. It is hard. And when I think about that for competitions, you know, every place where we compete and the wave tour, it's different. And I feel like also like sometimes you need to adjust a bit your mindset to it. Like, for example, like let's say in Chile, you know, I know that wave really well now. I really know that wave really well. And I know I could have done well. But then again, you get to that competition mode and there's a few things here and there that maybe like, and you know what? I feel like this year I was so motivated to do well, and especially because I got such a tough heat in the quarterfinals, you know, with Marcelo Brown, Camille Juban, and Miguel Chapuis, that I was like, oh, I really need to do my best here, like my absolute best. Like I really need to do like, and so I went in the water too intense.
Yeah.
Too intense.
Totally overthinking everything in your mind.
Yeah, not really, not even just like overthinking, but I was just like too intense, too much fire, which is something that helped me out a lot in the years.
Yeah.
But now, because I know that wave so well and I've done those rides hundreds of times, I should have just relaxed, you know, as your coach said. I was just like, But again, it's a mental game, because to find that perfect balance in each event, it's not easy. It's something that I love, because it's a nice challenge that I feel like it's also super helpful in life in general. But yeah, it's a continuous search, let's say, or a continuous journey, trying to get their focus. Yeah, I want it. I want to do well. I'm committed, but I'm also relaxed because I want to enjoy. Like it's something to work on all the
Synergy,
time.
getting it all together.
Yeah.
Federico, I could talk to you all day about this. I feel like we're just getting warmed up, but we're going to have to round things up. Before we do, though, one quick question for you then. And actually, before I met you today, I had obviously a bit of a chat around the beach. Like, yeah, I'm chatting to this guy and these guys. What do you guys want to know? And the repeated question that kept popping up from windsurfers around here is, we're just getting started into wave sailing. Obviously not here. This is at other spots. This is a flat water spot. Yeah. What's your first thing they should start to learn? They can do top turns, bottom turns a bit. What's the first move? What's the first skill that you're like, this is sort of the entry level? This is a good one to work on next.
So, and do you mean like in side on, side off, or in general? You mean like moves like tricks, or you feel like just in general?
Just in general, okay. Whatever direction the wind's blowing, they're sort of getting some wave riding going on, and they're like, what do I do next?
Well, to me, like maybe I'm a bit old style on this, but I feel like the foundations of wave riding really are bottom turn and top turn. And I spend so much time working on it. First of all, because I just love the feeling, especially like on a nice wave, going down full speed, engaging the rail, like accelerating. And I'm sure you know this feeling from skiing too. When you put the rails, it's just like the board goes like, and that feeling to me, I think is one of the best in windsurfing. So I'm pretty addicted to that. But besides that, I feel like the bottom top turn is the foundation of wave riding. And if you can practice that long enough to have it more consistent, then from there to add everything else is going to be so much easier.
Yeah.
So like I saw a lot of people like also like maybe going, as soon as they were able to wave ride a bit, they would start trying tricks, and that's okay. Each one has its own way of learning and improving and having fun, because that's also the point. But to me, it was like, I like to have things consistent, also because maybe I'm competing. So I need to know that in competition, I will have that 8-9 times out of 10, right? Because I want to be consistent. But like, I feel like just sticking to that, the bottom top turn, analyzing it, watching yourself in video, and it looks simple, but there's a lot behind it. So in my opinion, just stick to that and having it consistent in all different conditions.
Yeah, and that's the one, being able to repeat it in whatever the wind or the waves are doing. Can you still put it out the bag? Flat water here, of course, so we get a bit of chop when we go further down the bay that way. And I do a lot of like flat water wave riding. So we use wave-ish style kit, but like bear away into a big bottom turn style, lay down style jibe, but then pull it back up, bring the hands back together, back on the heels, and bring it back up wind again. It's basically just power S turns, but in free ridey style waters. And then once you get good on it, it's a great transferal back into the wavy conditions. It's
Absolutely.
Just fun. That's I'm on a flat water spot most of the time, so we find our own ways of replicating a little bit what we see on the telly when I spot what you're up to at the minute. Like, I'm just doing the same thing. It's not quite the same, but it's very good practice, is my point.
It is for sure.
Cool. Federico, it's been so cool having you on the Starboard podcast just here. I said, I think we're just getting started. So we're going to have to message later in the season. We'll get you on. We'll talk a bit more about PWA events, how things fit together, and you can tell us more about what's been going on over the last couple of months, if that sounds cool to you.
Absolutely. Please. I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me again. And, also if we get some feedback from the audience, we can know what to talk about more in the next one.
For sure. Speaking of which, this is on Starboard Spotify. It's also on my YouTube channel. I'm going to send a whole bunch of stuff over Federico in just a minute. So you'll find all of the social media channels are all over the place. There's loads of different ways that you guys back home can get in touch with us. But I think for now, we're going to sign off. So thanks very much again, Federico. We'll see you guys on the water all around the world, wherever you happen to be, and on all your windsurfing adventures.
Yes.
Freddie, thank you.
Thank you so much, Marky. Ciao, ciao. Have a good one.
Ciao.